I was sitting in a parking lot at home, it's Christmas, and I watched this man and his two sons get out of a truck, and there were tree laborers, carpenters, whatever, and they walked over and they were talking to another guy they knew, and one of the sons lit up a joint, and he passed it to the other son, his brother, and he had a toke, and then they passed it to the father, and he just passed it over to the other guy they were talking to, and the three boys had a toke, and the father was talking to him. It was just perfectly normal, and I know the father and these two boys. And 5 years ago, it would be unheard of for them to have a drink together. I mean, this is the kind of people they were, but this was perfectly normal in a parking lot in the middle of a public place around Christmas time, and I just laughed my head off.
I never
couldn't believe it.
Where do I start? Got a toke?
Do you think it should be decriminalized?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Why is that now?
Look at the thousands and thousands of people that get records for absolutely nothing, for starters. Just for starters. Yeah. You know, hell, there's... What's it hurting? I know more drunks than I know toke freaks. You know, marijuana, Lord, it's going to come. There's no doubt about it. You know, which government is going to be the one to boldly step forward where no man has gone before? But there's no question it's going to come. It's going to come down to a matter of social pressure and money. It's going to make marijuana laws change. It may change in our lifetimes. I sure like to see it. It's been a hillbilly for years now. For years. I got busted in 1971. And it was terrible then. Now it's just nasty and naughty. Maybe it'll take another 10 years, but things will change. There's no doubt. They've got to, because right now they suck.
The laws in this country are completely antiquated.
That's pretty good. Very good.
I think they're a little antiquated, sort of like Prohibition was, personally.
Well, I think they're a bit too strict, especially for people who only carry like very small amounts, especially, right? Because, you know, just for one night's good time, and you know, they're taking a chance of getting in a lot of trouble. You know, that it's not the same if they had a six-pack of beer on them. You know. The evidence that I've heard, like no proof has been given, I don't think, but it doesn't seem to be as damaging as a normal cigarette even. So I don't think it should be a criminal injustice to smoke marijuana.
No, man, it should be legalized. Really, the government can make a lot of money to legalize it. To legalize it, put it in stores, could sell a lot. Just like a pack of cigarettes. Harmful? It's harmful over years. I mean, you get older, turn 50, 60, you get seen out quicker maybe. But it's not really all that harmful. It's just like smoking a cigarette, man. You know, just take a puff and get high.
What do you think about decriminalization?
I think it's a good idea because people shouldn't be put in jail and have criminal records because of simply having a joint or two in their pockets or even more than that.
Government should look for their easy finances out of marijuana, really. Right. Do you think marijuana is harmful for your body?
Well, for every study that says it is, there's studies that say it isn't, so I don't think that's a factor. I think it's probably more harmful for people to go to jail over something than to smoke, just to smoke it. You know?
Yeah, they don't send people to jail for alcohol.
No, that's true.
I mean, they send you to a wet tank.
Or over
over the limit, but I mean, then you're being dangerous, you're being negligent.
And then even then you don't get it on your record.
On the record, yeah, exactly.
That's close to it, but he says that, as he asked me if it was harmful to the body, I said, I don't know. I mean,
That's harmful as what?
that's
Breathing the air that people...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To what extent, I don't know.
I don't know enough about it to really put an opinion on it because I smoke it myself, right? But like, I don't know. I don't really know that much about it seriously.
Controversy around marijuana tends to center around 7 categories. They are motivations, brain damage, sexual impairment, comparison to alcohol and cigarettes, birth defects, possible stepping stone to harder drugs, and the present medical uses of marijuana. We hope to present different people's opinions on these points as well as views on decriminalization, and possible legalization, and its impact on society.
When they did release the prohibition on alcohol and things like that, the push in science wasn't nearly as big as it is right now. So that what you're going to find is going to be an incredible amount of pharmacological and psychological and human factors and this sort of thing, research into whether or not it's safe, which is going to hold out things a tremendous amount longer than it did with alcohol, because they just didn't think about that sort of thing then as deeply.
It's been proven effective.
But a lot of the research that's being done now is applied, rather than just theoretical pharmacological type things. They're more interested in things like driving and motor performance, in different types of perceptual things like that, and that's going to take an awfully long time.
And they're going how about the other side of that statement? As it's legalized, availability becomes, no problem, so that, you get 300 veg heads.
The industrial society would suffer. There'd be too many veg heads out fucking up on the assembly line. Making the wrong management decision.
But it would be any worse than alcohol, though.
More people screw up on booze right now than they do smoking joints and going to work. Booze slows down your motor coordination, whereas marijuana does not necessarily slow down your motor coordination.
No, that's true. There's a lot of people that are screwing up because of booze, and it costs the country a whole bunch of insurance. But on the other hand, like dope, you can accommodate into your working life. Like unfortunately, you can be really stoned and really fuck up a lot and still do it, like every day. Which is booze. You'll only do it about
But I don't think in terms of the work loss due to sickness and things like that, alcoholism and chronic marijuana use just aren't comparable, because so many people are stoned at work now and carry out efficient.
Well, the efficient part may be the bitch, but a lot of people are stoned at work.
They keep their jobs.
Yeah, they keep
really well, and people in general do not know that they are stoned at all.
Yeah,
this is true.
But I think that part of it is how you measure efficiency. I mean, there are very few guys that I know that can be wired to the eyeballs, go into work, and unless they get into the work while they're stoned, they get into it. But basically, if they're just cranked out of it, and you get about maybe 60% efficiency out of them.
Oh, well, I don't know, only by what I've seen. Studies, I'd have to say my motivation drops, because I'm enjoying the high a little too much. Really, because I'm busting out. No motivation to do anything. No, like I've been trying to decide to go over to the law library for 2 hours now, so I guess the motivation's not here right now.
It was found that in a 1975 Jamaican study that there was no notable differences between users or non-users. It should be noted that the users smoked 7 to 25 joints a day, averaging 3% THC content per joint for a period of 10 to 25 years.
I don't see that the problems with alcohol are necessarily going to happen again with marijuana. Like, there is no accessibility problem for marijuana now, by and large. I mean, when it is exceedingly available in a place, like for example in Jamaica, the effects are not the same as with alcoholism. You don't develop the Skid Row syndrome when you have chronic marijuana use, because those people are perfectly productive. They've been smoking dope since they were 4 years old, a bag a day.
The effects are different.
The effects are different. That's one thing.
Indian reservations, you give them a bottle of fire water, and oh God, but they've been doing buttons and peyote and many different things for just generations, and they don't have their.
They certainly had a productive society before alcohol came in.
Yes. Well, now.
But there's a lot more problems with that.
And the effects of marijuana are different, and it's going to come down to, my God, we're broke.
I would give my statement. I think it should be legalized because I don't think it's physically damaging. I think the laws are antiquated, just as liquor laws were in, say, during Prohibition. And 30 years from now, we may be in a grade 6 textbook about marijuana runners as opposed to rum runners.
Making a fortune talking about Montreal and come down.
The big tobacco companies are all set to go. All the major names, brand names have all been patented. Acapulco Gold and Panama Red and all these so-called names have all been patented by big American companies, Virginia Tobacco type companies, McDonald's Tobacco owns a couple of themselves. Oh yeah, well, there you go. Sure. marijuana in 50 years may be this area's largest cash crop as a farmer.
Belief that tobacco companies have patent brand names and are ready to cash in when marijuana is made legal is mentioned in a book written by Dr. Andrew Malcolm. In the book, The Pursuit of Intoxication, published by the Addiction Research Foundation of Ontario in 1971, Dr. Malcolm states that rumors to that extent existed, probably inaccurately, during the last part of the 60s. In a 1980 report from Playboy magazine, which states tobacco companies as refusing to discuss the subject, also reports that no evidence can be found to back up such claims. In the report, Dr. Goffman, a consulting economist who has been actively involved in marijuana research for 20 years, says he is doubtful that a contingency plan even exists.
Aside from that, it would reduce income tax, maybe even abolish income tax, with the revenue economic factor.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The way we're going right now, we pay so much in income tax and taxes and everything else, that if they brought in cannabis and charged like 100% above what it, 100%, 2,000%, 5 cents to produce a joint, $1 for it in the liquor commission or whatever else sold it, they'd make a fortune on it.
I would really be into marijuana.
It'd be really, really big
That would
business
be
for the government.
That would be like taking the rip off on the street and putting it in the store. No,
Yeah.
we don't want to do that.
Put it in the store, put it against our taxes. My God, it would be to like the rest of Canada like the oil is to Alberta.
Well, I consider them to be pretty unfair to the common possessor of marijuana. Perhaps if they had changed the law, that sort of possession could perhaps not be a criminal offense and therefore not be stigmatized as, sort of stigmatized you as being a criminal sort of thing. And pretty well they hurt the common user, although I guess their goal is towards the pusher, the man that makes the big bucks, I would suppose.
So you feel like it should be decriminalized, basically?
It should be decriminalized for possession, although, like, you know, it's going to be a fight for the top on who gets the sales. It was decriminalized in the terms of, like, you know, trafficking and that sort of thing. But I guess it should be decriminalized.
Just one more. Do you think marijuana is harmful for people's bodies, though?
Well, it all depends on the individual himself, I would suppose, and how much he can cope. I suppose it'd be just like alcohol in the sense, like, you know, some people can drink and some can't. Some can hold it and some don't. Yeah. So, like, you know, it would be harmful in the sense that I guess that for your lungs, I would suppose, because it does contain more tar than the average cigarette. And I don't think it would be harmful over an overall effect if you used it sparsely, but if you were an everyday user and you smoked it as much as a chain smoker would smoke a cigarette, I guess it would be harmful in that sense.
There are definite harmful effects of taking smoke into one's lungs.
Definitely, there must be physical effects, you know. Smoking anything and doing anything to an extreme like that is going to have some effect on your body, your physical health, you know. All the extremes I've had when I've been smoking for 10 years, you know, I've never really seen that it's been very harmful for people, you know. If anything, it's loosened people up and, you know.
As Thomas Underglider, presidential appointee for the Schaefer Commission, 1972, says that no intoxicant, or for that matter, no drug, is totally safe or harmless. In a sense, there is no human activity which is totally harmless. It is his opinion that marijuana involves only a minimal risk of harm to the user.
Okay, the person was getting chemotherapy because they had cancer and there were a lot of bad side effects, nausea being one. And smoking marijuana eases this and makes the person feel a lot more comfortable, but there are doctors that won't prescribe marijuana because it's marijuana, and these people have had to go and get their own illegally. This is just what I read in the paper.
Oh, I'm sure that happens.
It's just what I read in the paper about somewhere in the States. And I don't even know what the policy up here is about that. I've just been reading what in the paper.
I don't think there is any here.
It should be noted that as of March 1980, in 16 states in the United States, marijuana is legalized as a controlled medication. Similar legislation is expected in at least 10 more states.
Getting back to that medical thing though, You guys should read the papers lately? Yeah.
Oh, about the women, they shouldn't smoke if they want to get pregnant.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, you're playing Russian roulette with your, like, smoking joints if you're pregnant at the same time. And there's hardly anything substantiated. They give you one of these, the first article was like a quarter, like the headlines, smoking marijuana may cause birth defects.
Yeah.
And then you read the blurb on it, well, that big, and then the rest of it was like the facts saying, well, we're not really too sure, but there's everything.
There's a corollary though to that. If that were true, then you could use it as a form of birth control. I mean, that's what it says. It says, if you try and get cured during timing for birth control. No, that's not what it said.
Oh, I thought this.
No, it said it made her infertile, and alright, once you were pregnant, the chances of you having a miscarriage were slightly, well, I don't know, 40% higher, whatever. But it also said the main point of the article was that it caused women to be more sterile, comparatively infertile, who smoke marijuana. So, of course, that means...
They said temporary infertility.
Right.
And wow, it was just an example that I was showing you. It was like a little blurb on possible birth defects, and then the rest of the article was saying how they weren't too sure, but they were doing further studies on it. And it probably wasn't, but like the headlines were like birth defects caused by marijuana, and it was like people just see the headlines and they don't see anything else,
Yeah.
They don't read the rest of the article, and that's.
And they think of it as being like a real hard narcotic or something too. Yeah. I'm not really aware of those issues about it, but I don't know. I mean, I've experienced enough about it myself over the past, say, 10 years with people that I know and personally to say that I have a child myself, and it certainly didn't cause any birth defects with him.
I never smoked while I was pregnant.
Right. But did you smoke before?
I smoked before though.
And has the baby turned out fine?
Yeah, it turned out fine.
Great. According to some of the things that I've read, the only chromosome damage is when people have injections of like 150 to 150 joints a day,
Right.
That doesn't hurt somebody nothing though.
Like doctors' reports and all that, they're a bunch of baloney talking about marijuana will hurt you, stop you from making babies and stuff like that. That's all crap. Because how can they prove it? Really. You got to take a lot of years, a lot of smoking to prove something like that. But I say it should be legalized, really. Smoke it every day. It's a nice high.
What do you think about the current laws that are happening for marijuana?
Well, I think that they're too strict. They're too strict about the laws because, man, like for the simple fact that, there's a lot of people smoking it, and what can you do? Kids are starting to smoke it now, man, and grown-ups is even, I know grown-ups is even into it, so, a lot of people take it for heat reasons and other reasons, medical reasons, so what can you do?
Okay. Do you think it should be decriminalized or legalized?
I think it should be legalized, myself.
Okay. Why do you think so?
Well, because there's no way that you're going to stop them from doing it. All they're doing each year is putting a lot of people in jail and going off food for nothing. For dope, sounded like, well, I think it should be legalized myself because, there's no way that you're going to stop people from smoking marijuana. Guys in jail, there's more marijuana, man, in jails than it is out here. Guys smoking it. You can't stop them from smoking it. It's a loving sensation.
What do you think is going to bring about the change?
Well, I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to come about very quickly. I think what's going to happen is the legal system is going to do this. They're going to go and say, yeah, then marijuana laws are there, all right.
You think it's just sheer weight of numbers that's going to change the law then?
Yeah, it's going to be sheer weight of numbers.
That's what will happen if it's slow, I think. But if you want to look at the rapid case, I think that what might bring on a rapid change is economic things.
Yeah.
Because, notwithstanding the problems of, expense in the courts for the repeals that you were talking about before, in the case of someone that gets an unjust sentence, the amount of money put into enforcement of the laws is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
and the amount of money to be gained from not only decriminalization but government control over
that's where the killing is going to be made.
You know how much money the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission makes? Can you imagine how much money the Nova Scotia Drug Commission will make?
They would be able to make that at a fraction
of the cost. Okay.
In 1977, marijuana was estimated to be a $13 to $20 billion business. Estimates reached as high as $25 billion for 1978. The U.S. government is reported to be spending close to $1 billion a year to stop drug abuse and marijuana smuggling. In the fall of 1978, Canadian law enforcement agencies spent $2.2 million in a sting operation involving $24 million worth of marijuana, the largest seizure ever made in Canada. Unfortunately for the authorities, one man, a small boat with 1.5 tons of Colombian pot, estimated to be worth $2 million, eluded the trap. He was never heard of again. The boat was found later, scuttled.
Well, I don't see any harm in anyone having an arbitrary amount of marijuana on their possession, like let's say under an ounce or under. But they should be given a criminal record if they're caught with such a small amount for their own personal use.
Think about age limits for it?
Yeah, I think you could run it about the same as you would for the age for alcohol, 18, 19 years old.
Controlled by government outlets or?
Controlled by government outlets? Well, that's as in legalization of sale. I don't think that would be a very good. I don't think legalization would be that good of total legalization like that. I think something more along the lines of legalizing cultivation, so that if you wanted to grow your own plot in the summertime, you know, it's enough to give you what you figure was a personal supply to put you through the rest of the year, more or less. That would be all right. If it's going to stay a black market, they have to keep some kind of control on the influx of the pot, and I suppose that's something to do with the price of it too, which is another reason for legalization of cultivation. Is the black market prices, you know, it's going up faster than the price of inflation in the economy. It'd just be nice that someone who likes to have their own personal toke now and again has opportunities that they can go out without fear of being penalized, and growing their dozen or 15 plants successfully in the summertime and cut them down, and they have enough there to, you know, unless they are a real addict, and in that case, well, I don't think that's good. I mean, as far as, you know, smoking a half a dozen joints a day or 10 joints a day or whatever like that, that many plants isn't going to supply you all year long, but I'm talking about the average person who likes to have his toke now and again. That would be just plenty, and that would solve the problem of expense, and would be disheartening. That would be, and that's the way it should be.
Well, I think it's the right of an individual to decide whether or not they want to smoke dope, and that no one should have to have a criminal record because their choice is to smoke dope. They're not hurting anyone. It's totally an individual thing.
The fact that possession of marijuana is a criminal offense is absolutely ridiculous. The town where I came from, Liverpool, it's all kinds of people were arrested, and they all have criminal records now, and they're anything except criminal. And just like the police in Liverpool would stop you on the street in their car, and search your car, and people search you on the street. It's not where, like in Halifax, the police just don't stop you and search you unless they have a reason. At least it doesn't seem to me as if, like, I've never been stopped in Halifax, but I've been stopped and searched many times in Liverpool. The point there is the fact that it's twice as illegal to smoke grass in Liverpool than it is in Halifax. And it is also the same way if you go to court. With one joint in Liverpool, you're going to get a $300 fine. That's just the way it is. You go to court in Halifax.
That's even today?
Even today. And if in Halifax, you're going to get a $50 fine or maybe a $100 fine. So again, it's more illegal in a small town on the South Shore than it is in Halifax anyway.
Then I also think they should not decriminalize, but at least change the simple trafficking. The 18-year-old kid who's got his 4 bags of pot standing out in front of the tavern on a Friday evening, or a major drug pusher, who really deserves the, minimum of 7 years, I believe it is, for indictable trafficking.
No, that's what they can get, is 7 years.
I mean, that sucks. That's not right. That's not fair. The times are changing. The law isn't changing fast enough, but times are definitely changing.
But don't you see, actually, that in fact the law is changing, because the law is changing because they don't apply it. When was the last time you heard of anybody who had over an ounce of pot, and even if they had to divide it up, that the judge slammed and gave them 7 years? You can't name anybody. If they catch them with pounds, they get months now. See?
But if they catch you at all, you're still going to have a criminal record, even if you only got your $150 fine and you lost your bag of pot. You've got a criminal record.
Right.
And when you go to your great employer and you're a narcotic offense, sin of sins, this is terrible. And that's just not right.
The other main problem with that is that the range from minimum to maximum is much too great. That should be changed in the first place, because it depends very much on the whim of a judge or a jury.
Yeah.
What would happen to someone if they were caught in the situation that you described, where there's a kid that's out in front of the tavern selling? If by some, fell swoop of fate, there's a judge that has a bad day, or anyone that has a bad day, then a lot of different things can happen to that kid that shouldn't necessarily happen.
But jail for no matter how long.
The thing is that you have to realize, too, that the way that the law operates, if a judge has a bad day, and if this individual walks in and he draws 5 years. He draws 5 years for 3 pounds of pot. Immediately, his defense lawyer runs around and says he has a valid ground of appeal, because you can't give him 5 years when everybody else has been getting 3 months, and that's a valid ground of appeal. The thing is that the only problem seems to be is that where the Attorney General, in effect, he leans on the prosecutors, telling them how heavily he wants these prosecuted. That's where the real influence can be, rather than changing the law. Because I think that yourself, that the process that's going to have to occur for any government with any set of testicles to go and say, but we're changing the marijuana laws, they're going to have to wait till the particular generation who doesn't have kids that have smoked pot, i.e. those that are, maybe 50 and older. They've got to wait till those 50 and older become 70. But people who have kids now that smoke pot, they're going to be amendable to having the law change. But there's still this vast majority of people that are like over 50 that haven't had kids that have done dope, and are familiar with it, that there's no way, they consider, if you take a joint, you're either going to be a prostitute or a pimp, one or the other.
A puff, a party, a tragedy.
So those politics have to really be considered.
I think that generally people dislike change, and when they talk negatively about marijuana, I think they're mainly saying these things because they don't know anything about it. And since they don't know anything about it, it's taboo, they think it's bad, and so they tend to say bad things about it.
No, I just think that it's become an antiquated law, and presently it's doing more harm than good to the small minority of marijuana users who are unfortunate enough to be caught and convicted.
What about the positive effects of marijuana?
No, I don't really think there are too many positive effects to it. If you want to indulge, then fine. If you want to, if you're into that type of thing, which a lot of people obviously are, then we're going to convict people just because they're unfortunate enough to be caught.
I think if they took them to the NS, well, we have so many youngsters, 14, 15, 16, and 20, and to see the shape they're in, it would give them a good lecture.
You're saying that you think that maybe marijuana helped put these youngsters in the NS?
Oh, it sure does. It sure does. Well, I don't think the youngsters are realizing what they're doing. I don't think they're being taught enough in school and talked about it at home. if parents sat and took more time with their children and explain what's right or wrong. But so many parents today are hustle and bustle, and everybody's rushing and working to have no time for the teenagers.
You disagree with the use of marijuana, and you wouldn't want your daughter or your daughter you have?
Certainly not now. Not that while I have to provide for them, because it costs a lot of money. And if a teenager is making big money, well, and the parents are not interested, that would be a different story, wouldn't it?
Well, of course, I'm anti all the way. Only because whatever I feel that you can put in your hand that can alter your mood, okay, and you become somebody else, that's not right. I mean, you're supposed to be happy. Now, whatever the word means happy, I don't know what it is. Now, a lot of people say to go the spiritual way. Some people go, say, studying or whatever. But whatever the case may be, I don't think that anything that you can put in your hand that will control your feelings to pretend that you're happy is not right. I don't care what you say. There's other ways of being happy other than drugs. This exaggerated sense of separateness that I feel that a lot of people have. That they are different from somebody else. And then when they take booze or grass, I become one of the clan or one of the buddies, or I become anybody I want to become other than what they are themselves. And then I don't believe in grass. And they get all kinds of good reasons to smoke it. But I can't believe that that's the way to be. I don't know if that's the way to be happy. That's the real thing. That's the way I feel. It's good. Thanks for that.
One thing that would stop me, I think, from smoking it heavy is that part of it, that aspect of it, that can affect your memory. If I was smoking heavy and it started to affect my memory, that'd be enough to just scare me right to stop or to slow down.
I'm inclined to agree with that because
Really, to affect you that way, something as precious as your memory, I guess,
short-term memory for sure, because
be enough big of a jolt. I mean, just
I couldn't get stoned every night. I smoke a lot every night. And not try and go to school. It's just
when you're stoned. Well, I don't know about you guys, but but when I am trying to, it's like in a different world. So when I know people who smoke, at least once a day, I sometimes think, what is it? They must have something wrong that they would like not to be
in this world.
In reality, not to be in be able to. Like there must be something wrong. They must have some problem or something that would make them want to be stoned.
This is the 20th century we're living in here. It's 1980 now. 1980. It's a little stressful at times. Step right up. And I find this stuff takes the edge. It takes the edge right off there.
What do you think about current marijuana laws?
I think they're a little bit too steep. I don't think the fines and everything like that, I think they're too heavy, the fines. Death penalty, and people murder other people, they get off with 6, 7 years, and sometimes if you get caught with dope, you end up going to jail for 10 years. I don't think that makes any sense.
There is a real difference between the kids and the generation that have smoked out, and that would be people that are 35-ish and below, and the ones that are over that. Ones who don't have any contact and don't believe that their sons and daughters have any contact with it. That's the naive fools. Naive fools who don't think their sons and daughters have had any contact with it. They're in a totally foreign world because of the way that they try to dissuade young people from using marijuana when we first started. Because when everybody first started using marijuana, if you took a joint, that was it. You were paralyzed, dead for life, and and the parents have got that message into their heads. And that's as far as it's stuck. Yeah. But everybody else has done it and say, them guys are fucking liars. That's what's happened. And to try and break that down, the only way you're going to do it is either to have a prime minister or somebody come out and say, I've been token for 20 years, and I've been governing you for 5.
There were people there in the office of the Minister of Justice. One signed by Stuart J. Lamont. Your party advocates that fingerprinting and the establishment of a criminal record should be eliminated for the possession of marijuana. He went on to say that the Minister of National Health and Welfare is preparing a study. Well,
a meeting in October of the Attorneys General of the provinces and of Canada, at which this topic was raised, because as you can appreciate, the proposal to decriminalize marijuana, the possession of marijuana, which is supported by all three parties in principle, does require the cooperation of the provincial justice establishments in order to be accomplished, since they are the people who carry out the laws of the land, the criminal laws of the land. When I say decriminalize, I don't mean that it will become legal altogether. I mean that it will be taken from the criminal code so that the consequences that you referred to would not attend those who are convicted of possession, but the possession of the drug would be, at least the prohibition against possession of the drug would be placed in the Food and Drug Act, where it would be an offense of a different kind than is presently the case under the criminal. The meeting in October was given a discussion paper which had been prepared by the Minister of Health. There are some studies going on as to how this might best be done, and you say when. I guess soon. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I presume within a month or two, but I don't know.
Well, I think Mr. Cooper has accurately presented the position of all three parties, which is that we have been committed in principle to the decriminalization of marijuana for some time. I might add, however, that while the Tories and the Liberals have both been in a position to introduce legislation to bring that about, to my knowledge, the NUP is the only party in the form of a private member's bill by Stuart Leggett from British Columbia to have attempted to introduce such legislation in the House of Commons.
I concur that what has been said by George Cooper is the position of the three parties. It's been my public position as a citizen for some years.
I also think it's hypocritical to live in a country where the political leader of the country, if not outright says, yes, I've smoked marijuana, at least makes nuances to that effect, right? And then doesn't do anything about the marijuana laws.
Well, but that's no different from hundreds of other political issues where trading on glass. You know what I feel is one of the biggest reasons why they won't legalize it right now, aside from the fact that it would be really economical for the government, taxation-wise and everything, their income, their revenue from it would be incredible. It's the fact that we have the breathalyzer for alcohol, but how would they monitor us? How would they monitor it, and how would they make it legally possible to monitor for a blood test? Well, they're find out, what is your content? How do they conduct a series of tests to find out where is your impairment level with dope? Well, they never did that with booze, so they don't have to do it with dope. No, but you see, you can have a combination of both, and this is like a mental problem for the law enforcement agencies. They're really worried about this.
No, they don't understand the subtle interaction between the two. They just understand booze and dope.
Oh, I'm sure there must be a lot of guys that are hit.
Well, I mean, it's in fact true that a combination of the two is way worse than the individual.
Yeah, and they don't know how to regulate it on the roads for people driving.
That doesn't bother them. They just want to know booze and dope, the booze meter and the dope meter.
If they can make a breathalyzer, they can make a hashalizer.
Well, that's what they're going to do. They have this for blood now. Yeah. They can detect it, but that's a very big problem, of course, because the half-life of marijuana is extremely long, and whether you had, if you are a chronic user, where you're down the tubes, because you're going to have almost a constant level, high level, and obviously with drug tolerance being what it is, you're going to have people that are not stoned at all, that are chronic users, that have it there, having higher content than people that are casual users and shouldn't be driving at all in the first place. Someone that just does grass on the weekend at a party and gets in a car and drives home.
That in itself
is ridiculous.
That in itself is going to be a problem because they had a real bitch and moan session. The breathalyzer is one of the most contested pieces of legislation that they've had. Every word in that they're fighting over, just for breathalyzer with that, and that's a drug that has received common acceptance. Booze was accepted up to prohibition, then they went through a dry spell, quote unquote, and then they did it again, But this is something that's, it is new, comparatively speaking to the North American culture. so it has to be new. And then to get people to submit to a blood test, that's going to be just a legal, scream, holler, fight. The civil libertarians are going to be ranting and raving all the way through, because what if they pick something up? They got you, they want to take you for impaired marijuana use, and so they screwed it. You're on acid. What type of a test are they going to use? Once they get that permission to take blood, they're going to want to run a battery of tests this long.
Yeah, there's actually been one proposal made by a bunch of researchers, I think in California, where else? That had the idea that you should have a driver's license for when you're stoned, and if you're a chronic marijuana user, you have this to flash if you're stopped. You are an adequate driver when you're stoned, because after a certain point, you compensate quite perfectly if you're a chronic user.
And tests can definitely prove that.
Yeah. In the United States of America, there have been states for years now. It's going on years for states in the U.S. and other countries where grass has been legalized, but it's never been government controlled, and there's no serious talk within any of the government structures of getting their fingers in on the marijuana, the money pie. There hasn't been any industry. There's never been any, saying, well, we'll dump the tobacco and we'll run the weed in. There hasn't been any serious talk, and I don't think that there's going to be.
Times are changing there too. The state of Florida realizes that its biggest import is not tourists, isn't sun, isn't sand, isn't surf, it's marijuana from Colombia.
Yeah.
It's $1 billion industry.
There's a lot of money.
And the talk is now changing. The state of Florida is going, my God, we want a slice of this.
But the only thing is that I can't see government government, I think, would rather go and say, well, yes, we can make money on it. Yes. But if we go and do that, then we also have to accept all the social problems. When we see rubbies on the street, right, people say, if the government would stop booze, the government's under some obligation because they peddle it to booze.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get to booze except for the government. They're responsible for the alcoholics. And that's a government problem. You have to take them to a government institution to drive out. Well, if the government goes and, if they just decriminalize and then run away, then they're not going to be responsible for the
I don't see that the problems with alcohol are necessarily going to happen again with marijuana.
Do you think that social workers in general should be made aware of the large numbers of people that do smoke marijuana?
I think they should be made aware of it.
Yeah, should be made aware of it.
Aren't they already? They should be.
From what I can gather, there's people that haven't been exposed to it too much. That's the reason for making this movie, is to get a lot of social workers. When they go to the house, for example, with a check in their hand, if somebody's smoking during their home, they'll freak them out so bad that they'll turn around and walk out and get in their car, which I think probably has happened before. If we can get to one or two people that feel that way.
How could the new social worker not be aware of what's happening around them? Where are they? In the back room? That's their job to, of course, do you think they would know if I say something wrong?
No, it's just,
you should have, if they haven't discovered marijuana to be that harmful, any more harmful than alcohol, well, why not? You have it home and you can do with it what you want. You can play hockey with it, you can write exams with it, you can go to church with it, you can go to bed with it, you can do whatever you like. You can have your ounce, your half ounce, your certain amount of grams in your home. Do with it what you will. That's what I think about it. And if you want to go out and smoke it in a club or a pub, well, that's your risk, and you'll pay for the consequences. You pay with the consequences.
Until the laws have changed.
If you want to carry it when you're 15-year-old, well, that's your problem too. But I think you should be able to have it legitimately in your home if you are of the age, they say.
It's in the Bible. It's right in the Bible, Genesis 1, verse 29. It says, And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth. To you it shall be for meat. That's what it says. And according to the laws here, that's been overruled by higher authority, if there is such a thing.
Yeah, what do you think of marijuana?
It's good. Very good.
But unfortunately, now they're coming up with all this good evidence that it's a lot worse than tobacco. Like, for one, it stays in your lungs, 6 times longer and all this. And, like, the chemicals are very similar. So, if cigarettes are bad, this is probably worse. Like that's the modern thought.
I still feel that,
Last week or something.
a mature person is...
Right, now that's exactly. That is a good idea. Brownies are so much tastier too.
And they've got much more of a body still, they're really good.
Yeah, use brownies. That's our final recommendation to the Prime Minister.
Silicon cannabis.
Brownies.
You can bake marijuana oven.
Shake and get baked.
Remember, with booze you lose, with hope there's hope.
Later.
Bye. Have a nice trip out west.
Thank you.